Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
You can't use that word. Only we can use that word.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
I don't care. It's close enough. I'm not here to be accurate, god damn it. I'm here to just say it.
AJ.
They literally sneak out by hiding a girl under a giant trench coat like a Three Stooges gag. What the f***, Disney Plus? Come on now.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we're outwitting the Hungarian Horntail, outsmarting merpeople, and making a mad dash for the Tri-Wizard Cup through the maze as we dig into the fourth Harry Potter novel, The Goblet of Fire. This is the Nerf Herder Council. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page and YouTube channel of the Virtual Cantina Network. We are also live on the Nerf Herder Council Twitch page. If you have never visited there, go check that out. Tons of great content there as well. We are at those locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get some awesome Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And if you have not done so already, and you're watching on one of the two YouTube channels, please remember to click that like button, click the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. And guys, I'm beating everybody to the punch. I'm starting to remember this. The views of the Nerf Herder Council don't necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network, and there may be some bad language in our show. So if you're not into that kind of shit, just click the little X, whatever gets you out of the show, and you won't have to hear it. So there you go. Without further ado, let me bring on a man who is setting personal records in health today. He is, of course, my best friend and my younger brother, AJ. What is up, Muscle Man? How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, man? Great to talk to you. Thanks. I love the intro. You always come up with something different every time.
I don't want to be stock if I can help it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's been a hell of a week, man. So sometimes you just need a good heavy barbell in your hands and just take it all out in the gym. So yeah, it was a good day. Good day all around. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be talking some Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, book 4. Pretty excited to get your thoughts on this one. This is one where we have not actually talked about this really outside of this. So all your thoughts are going to be new to me and vice versa. So I'm kind of excited to get into this one, man. How you been?
I'm doing great. Things are good. I had a personal health thing. I had my yearly physical today. This is riveting radio or podcasting. But yeah, I'm actually down more than 10 pounds from last year. So I wasn't all healthy like you lifting weights and stuff, but I'm losing weight as you're lifting it. I'm losing it. So that's good. So, but yeah, in terms of the Goblet of Fire, I'm pumped up for this one too, man. This is actually my favorite of the Harry Potter novels. It's a very interesting point in the timeline of the Harry Potter story. Obviously, it's it's the middle point, and it's got 3 books before, 3 books after, and I think this is one where you kind of get the best of both worlds where Harry Potter is concerned, and that's I think why I love it the most, because I think when you think of Harry Potter, you kind of think of the innocence of the first few books where it's just, oh, Harry's on a little adventure at Hogwarts, and then the last few is like death and destruction and doom and gloom everywhere. And this one is the tipping point, and it has some of both of that in there. So this is really where, I hate to use this term, but I think it's apropos. The series comes of age, but it's interesting because this is where it really grows with its audience, I think, and I love that about it. So I don't remember if I think Chastity corrected us the last time that it is not the longest one, but the second longest book. But it feels like the longest, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, I was trying to prep for this and I ran out of time. It's been very busy in my personal life, and then I fired up the audiobook at Sunday, I think. I was like, okay, I got a few days. I'll get through this. It's like a 20-hour audiobook. It is a long one.
Yeah.
I was looking at it like, man, I could listen to this in my sleep over the next 3 days and still not get through it. But you're right, though. I definitely get the same impression that this thing is, like you said, that transition point where you go from, you've got some lighthearted, innocent stuff, and then you've got some really dire circumstances. Like, I mean, once you get into the Tri-Wizard tournament, spoiler, he's fighting a dragon in the first event. So
yeah,
they're not playing around anymore, I really like that too, though. I like the shift in tone. I think it one thing that I've always appreciated about the Harry Potter series is that because it follows like the characters 1 year to the next, and I'm sure Chastity will tell us, but I don't know what the release spacing was of the books, but it feels like the series, much like Clone Wars for Star Wars, the series grew up with the audience.
Yes,
so
totally agree.
Cool. Yeah, I like the way they wrote this one because it seemed like she trusted the audience more to handle more mature stuff. So she put more mature stuff in it as a result, and I think it just worked all the way around.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's always been interesting to me because, again, as you just phrased it, she kind of, the novels grew with the audience or vice versa, and it's kind of funny to me because, this is one of those books where the author's kind of true self starts showing. And as you read the three books that come after, she puts some pretty dark stuff in there. And so you can tell that she's got that kind of thing in her. And that's on full display here because the first bad thing, if she wants to kind of ease the audience into, hey, this is going to be more adult stuff. The very first thing is a major death. There's there's not like an accident or an injury. No, it's like some, kid just gets offed immediately by Voldemort. He's back for about 13 seconds, and not even back yet. And he's like already having people murdered. Like, it's like, okay, all right, J.K. Rowling, I see you. So yeah, that's kind of interesting in that respect, I think.
Yeah. So we're just jumping right to that, huh?
Well, I was just saying,
we can talk about that. That's definitely something that's got to be addressed, right? But I wasn't sure if we were going to like go there right away or find something else to ease into the topic. Because
as long as we're there, we can go.
Okay. Yeah. So give me your take. First time that you read this. So first off, this is very important. One of the things with the length of the book is that as the movies go on, because the books get longer, I know, as Chastity said, Order of the Phoenix, the next one, is the longest in the series. But this is definitely the point where they had to get more and more judicious with their edits to fit in the same runtime, because the movies don't really vary in length nearly as much as the books do. So you get a lot less meat on the bone in the movies, or a much leaner version or diluted version, however you want to, or concentrated version, whatever word you want to use. You get a lot less of the book in the movie, How do you feel about that, first off?
Like, do you feel like that they cut?
Do you feel like the story is still intact despite all the stuff they had to leave out?
I do. And that's something that I think goes over each of the movies for me. I've said it before that I think that these films, excuse me, that's what I get for drinking beer online. I think, these films do a great job of really nailing the main story points, but also the feel of it as well. So there's not a lot of changes. I mean, there's omissions, but there's not a lot of changes. And the ones that are there are to me like fairly inconsequential. And that's huge for me because I'm one of those people that it's like, if you're going to adapt a book that's, first of all, if a book is good enough to be adapted, then it shouldn't be messed with. So don't mess with it. Mm-hmm. And I feel that, with all of these, that they just did an excellent job with that. So no, it does, to answer your question, it doesn't really bother me. I think, I was looking up, differences between the book and the movie. And I don't see a lot that you could really nitpick. I mean, one of the main things is the whole spew thing. Hermione, like
that entire plot is just gone. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, do you need it? I mean, it's really just kind of, it's a side story of Hermione, like, knitting clothes for the house elves and trying to free them and all this kind of stuff. But it doesn't have anything to do with the bigger story. So, leaving it out, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the chat's got a lot of comments about that too, all the omissions and whatnot.
Yeah,
like we're talking about, you have to strip stuff out. There's just not enough time in 2.5 hours to cover everything. I feel like the intro was rushed as hell in the movie. To me, it was a case of, much like the Hunger Games, and I have this in the Harry Potter movies too, where it seems like a lot of times the filmmakers forget, or at least don't address the part of the audience that isn't familiar with the books. I feel like a lot of the start of this movie does not make a lot of sense. It's this like, it's like an episode 9 kind of, I'm drawing a lot of Star Wars to Harry Potter things tonight, but it's like the start of Rise of Skywalker, where stuff just happens, bang, bang, bang. You're like, whoa, what the hell is going on here? Like, you don't get to ease into the story at all.
Yeah.
Like, they're getting rushed off. They're at the World Cup. And then, within 5 minutes of the title card coming up, they're already like at Hogwarts and saying hi to Beauxbaton and Durmstrang. Like, they lightning rounded this stuff to where I don't know if you hadn't read the book, you might be like, what the hell is going on here?
It does move quickly.
A little bit too edited. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and those are some of the differences. It's the very first chapter in the book. It begins with the murder of the Riddle family and the gardener. The movie just begins with Harry having a dream of a man being murdered by Voldemort, which we know is the caretaker, whatever. The book, the gardener's invited into the room, whereas in the movie, the guy is killed before, he can say a word. It's, little things like that. I think the reason that it was a little too rushed, I don't think you got the point that was Voldemort. It was just kind of like, what the hell's happening? And I get, for a movie, you can't immediately give away Voldemort, but it didn't really have any weight to it, I think. So I would completely agree with you about that. The other thing, was about them going to the Quidditch World Cup. It just seemed kind of silly that, Mr. Weasley wouldn't say, yeah, we're going to the Quidditch World Cup. It's like, instead it's just get your ass up and go to this port key. And they're like, what the hell for? And all of a sudden they show up at this Quidditch World Cup. Like, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I do give credit for some of the efficiency that they did, though. Like, rather than Harry having the dream on Privet Drive and then going to the Weasleys and that whole business, they're just like, he's already there. He has the dream at the Weasleys instead, and now we're off. I like that. And but I agree with you. I think that the way they portrayed the fact that Harry was able to see an actual event through a dream was not really clearly conveyed, and they didn't. I don't know how they would have shot it differently to like keep it as tight as it was on time and also give it more stakes, because I feel like, like you don't really know what's going on with this guy, and then you don't. Yes, there's the name drop of Voldemort, which doesn't. I don't think that happens in the book. I don't think Wormtail ever says Voldemort. Isn't that Chastity? We're calling out to you again. Isn't that one of the things that Voldemort does not allow? Is like basically people can't call him by his name. So the he who shall not be named is not just for people that are scared of him, but also his subjects as well.
Well, they always call him Lord and the Dark Lord and stuff like that.
So if you're not going to show the guy, then you got to go. You got to say Lord Voldemort just so people know who's sitting in the chair.
Yeah. Chastity says the changes mess with the plot flow. I don't know that I agree with that, Chaz. I don't know. She also says Spew actually makes stuff with Ron and Hermione work later. See, I think I'm going to disagree there because, and maybe it's just me, Chastity, but I kind of felt like the Harry and Ron stuff was already the Ron and Hermione stuff was already working for me. I think
it's just woke. Oh, we've got a subjected class, we've got a servant class, and they need wages and time off and all this. They need to be respected. No, come on.
Yeah,
enough of that. That was woke 20 years before woke was woke.
Are we really going to talk about woke crap on our show? Isn't that something we avoid? By the way, I wanted to mention, speaking of things that kind of felt rushed, the whole Ron being pissed off at Harry for having
came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And in the book, it was, you're kind of like, why is he mad at him? But all of a sudden in the movie, his name comes out and you get Ron that close of him doing the dirty look, like giving him the mean mug. It's like, well, what huh?
The whole introduction to the Triwizard Tournament and the Goblet of Fire was, I mean, they did their best to like just get into the tournament and skip as much else as they could to where I think the front of the movie is kind of a mess as a result.
Well, I can't disagree. I personally don't have a problem with it, but I don't mind it because when you really think about it, the main plot points are the Triwizard Tournament, Moody and Barty Crouch Jr., that whole thing, and Voldemort returning. And so to take a whole bunch of story exposition at the beginning of the movie on other things is kind of it would take time away from other scenes. I mean the Triwizard Tournament itself is 3 mini adventures. I mean, you've got to dedicate stuff to that. And as it is, they short shrifted the maze. The maze was incredibly daunting in the novel. And in the movie, it was just kind of like you make a couple left turns and Victor gets bewitched or whatever, and they already cut that part short a lot. So, I said, there's so much material. I don't know. I mean, they finally got smart with the last one and made a 2-parter out of the book. This is definitely one that could definitely have benefited from another 2 hours of runtime, and they probably still would have had to be a little bit brief about things, but. I was trying to think because we have the same issue, right? The pacing is a little off and stuff doesn't really have room to breathe. Maybe if they had gone for more of a flashback kind of format, like just jump right to the tournament, jump into the meat of the story. And then there's enough callbacks. There's enough things that happen as a result of what they set up at the front of the story that maybe they could have worked it into like dialogue or something or flashbacks to put those other story points in there. I don't know. But yeah,
the way they told it was like a little too disjointed where nothing was built up to explain why it mattered. And then they just were right into it.
Billy Judd, thank you for tuning in. Says, how would HBO handle Cedric's death? And who will they cast for Cedric? That's a sore subject. That's something we're going to talk about on a future show, Billy, because I'm annoyed with that show already, and nothing has even come out except for casting, and I'm a little agitated. So I'm nervous as to how they would handle it if they were handling it. I don't know. That's a topic for another time. But I mean, AJ just mentioned the term woke. I mean, there are some things, and we'll get back to the topic in a second. But there are some things within the Harry Potter novels that they would probably definitely change based on the fact that 25 years has passed and like, oh, we got to clean things up a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty easy thing to handle, Billy. I mean, the movie did it perfectly. It's, he says, kill the spare, boom. He's, it's pretty much the same in the book. It's like, oh, who's this other turd? Get him out of here. So that's an interesting question.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, the HBO show is going to be interesting. They said the format is it going to be like 1 book per season, or are they just going to kind of
I'm not
whatever.
I'm not sure. Chastity Crawley says, I'm ignoring the existence of the HBO series. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the point of it is either, Chastity. I am not a fan of the concept at all. It screams cash grab. It's I don't know.
I mean, that it does, but I am going to confess that I enjoy the books. I think the movies are kind of shite. By comparison, the movies are not.
Wow.
They don't really work well as movies. Like, we're talking about all the problems they've had with the plot structure and the pacing and everything else. It's really, the movies were successful because the books were successful, not because they themselves were good.
I would disagree 100% on that.
And I've never been a fan of the visual effects or anything either. I really want to see what they can do with these stories with 25 years of visual effects enhancements and 8 episodes to tell the story or 10 episodes to tell the story instead of 2 hours to tell the story. I think there's a lot of potential here. The chat's been going crazy with all the stuff that is not included from the book in this, that they can absolutely include. I mean, the fact that Peeves never exists as a character in the movie universe at all. Like, come on. You couldn't have put him in a movie?
But what's the point? He runs around breaking stuff and being an a-hole, John Phillips with a very good point. Good to see you, by the way, bro. He says, not just a cash grab, but a rights retainer. That's a very good point. Yeah, and Chastity, she mentioned this when she was on the last one. She said Peeves was filmed for the first one. Yeah, and they didn't put him in. But see, here's the thing. That's why I would disagree with you, because I think, does Peeves matter in the grand scheme of things? No. And there's scenes that, at least for me, really stand out in certain novels. And Chastity, you can correct me on which one it is, but the Nearly Headless Nick's death day party. That was kind of a big deal. At least in the book, it was kind of, Harry had to go, and there's the rotting fish and all that kind of stuff, and the ghosts and all that. Nothing. There's barely any Nearly Headless Nick. But to me, it doesn't bother me because, and again, I am one of those people that, again, I will repeat myself. If you're going to adapt a book, adapt the damn book. Don't change things. Don't give us your interpretation. I hate that shit. And when I watched the Harry Potter movies, and I read all the books first, so I would read the book and then I'd watch the movie, and then I'd read the book, watch the movie. And when I watch the movies, they don't get under my skin like so many other adaptations do, because I feel like what they did is they would read the book, and then when they came out of the book, they'd be like, well, here's the main plot points as I saw them. And they would use those as the backbone of the movie. It's almost like, when you're eating a steak, you can have the whole entire steak, and most people prefer that. But if you just trim every single piece of fat off and just have the actual meat part, it's still delicious. It's still good. I feel like that's what the movies are. You don't have to have the fat to eat the steak. As long as you cook it with it, you get the flavor in there. And that's kind of the stuff that they left out of the movies. That's kind of how I see it. It's like that. So the flavor's still in the meat. It's just, you don't have to have that big hunk of fat going down your throat. You know what I mean? Like, Kale McLeese this morning. Oh, good to see you, bro.
Nice.
He says, I miss much? No, not yet. Not yet. We are debating. So,
it depends on what you're trying to hit. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so it just doesn't bother me. And I'm with you. I prefer the books, but I definitely don't think the movies are crap.
So that leads me into my next point that I really enjoy about this one. And you were talking about how this is like I think the term is inflection point, where it goes from one thing to another. I really like this one. The third one did some of this, and then the fourth one, especially here, does way more about expanding the world. So you talk about like trimming the fat. Like, I think that's the problem with this story, is that so much of it relies on new things that are in the wider wizarding world outside of Hogwarts, that it's really hard to get all that world building in there and also focus on the main story at the same time, because they're kind of intrinsically linked, right?
Yeah.
So you got to establish like Ministry of Magic and Mad-Eye Moody and Aurors and the other schools, and the unforgivable curses, and all this other stuff that goes on. It's like, wow, man, like I love this one for that, but it's hard to get it all in there.
Oh yeah.
Now, me personally, I really like the fact that the scope gets broader as the books go on, but it does take some of the focus away from Harry at times. So, because you had to have focus on the other champions, for example, and you got Voldemort and Spew and all that other stuff. What do you prefer? Do you prefer a more focused story if they had been more Harry centric with this one?
Honestly, I like them both for what they are. Again, the movies are close enough. I love all of the exposition and additional storylines that are in the novels. I really do. It broadens the world. It just gives so much character and personality to the whole thing, and I love that. But it's also kind of like I really think that they sit side by side very, very well, because you could sit down and listen to the 20-hour audiobook or read the book in how many hours it takes you to read. Or you can spend 2.5 hours and kind of get a condensed version but it still hits everything that needs to be hit. Excuse me. And honestly, dude, the feel is still there. I think that's why it doesn't bother me, because the heart and soul of it is there. It's not like Stephen King's The Shining, where Stanley Kubrick just absolutely butchered a classic novel and turned it into something completely different. It's not that. It's this is Harry Potter. It feels like Harry Potter. There's just a lot of stuff left out, and it's the Cliff Notes version, really, is what it is. So it does not, Kale says, yeah, I do wish I knew why they chose to cut Dobby for the movie.
So the chat's been talking about how they altered the plot point of Dobby giving Harry the gillyweed, whereas Neville gives it to him in the movie.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I think this is because part of Dobby showing up in the story is tied to the whole Spew thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, SPEW. You got to be very specific about that.
Yeah, right.
Don't want Hermione pissed at us. So if you're going to bring Dobby in, then you also kind of need that storyline. And since they cut that storyline, it didn't make sense for Dobby to show up. That's my guess.
Well, and
that's one of those plot points that I think that's a logical change. I think that works just fine.
Yeah, and also I think it kind of establishes it's another example of Neville kind of being the unsung hero at times. Because
it's a bit of foreshadowing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you have him getting 10 points for Gryffindor in the first movie for standing up to them, you're not leaving the common room again, that whole thing. And so when they add this in there, and other things that come later, then at the end when he actually, spoiler, he's the one that kills Nagini. Like you kind of see like, okay, like this is him. He's in the forefront of being a hero now. It's not so shocking. It's not like some random, Colin McCreevy or something all of a sudden grabs the sword of Gryffindor and kills Nagini. You're like, what the hell is that shit? So, yeah.
Did you get the feeling that much like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is the point at which you could feel like J.K. Rowling really had an idea of where the story was going and what she was trying to build towards?
That's an awesome question, because I've wondered that a lot as and dude, honestly, like I just keep rereading the books. Like it's my habit at work when I take, I used to go on actual lunches, but now we have minimal parking at our new building. So I just stay at work and I split it into two, and I'll read, while I'm eating. So I take about 20 minutes twice a day.
Except when you're at home. Audience, the most adorable video I have seen in I don't know how many years was JT's wife, Steph. She hasn't been on the show, unfortunately, but she snuck around the corner on a day that JT was working at home, and he chose to use his lunch hour to read Harry Potter to his grandson, his 1-week-old grandson. Absolutely the most adorable thing. My heart grew 3 sizes that day. It was unbelievable. So
I appreciate
good on you,
that,
sir.
man.
Good on you,
Thank
sir.
you. I've gotten a lot of response to that. I have to admit, this is not me kind of patting myself on the back or anything, but it's surprising that it got such a reaction. I was like, well, isn't that what you're supposed to do? I've read that, kids react to language, and I read a lot, and I just bought a dictionary on my e-reader the other day, and I'm reading 10 pages in a dictionary every day just to keep my vocabulary flowing. And
wow.
yeah, so my wife told me that kids react to language, so I read a lot. And so I was reading, I was like, well, let me hold him, I can get grandson time in, he gets language. Like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, I thought it was something people were supposed to do. But I appreciate that means a lot, man, because it was definitely fun, and I've done it since a little bit. And now I forget what the hell the original question was, because he got me thinking about my grandson.
Yeah, you're asking me what my question was. Shit, I don't know, man. I forgot too.
I'm having a thought. It's coming. It's gone.
We were talking about changes between the book and the movie and streamlining things and how Dobby wasn't in it. And then on that, you were talking about
Neville and
foreshadowing and
yeah. But no,
and then you went into a story about reading the books on lunch.
Yeah, and I just honestly, I just keep cycling through them. So like right now I'm in the middle of the beginning of the 6th book, Half-Blood Prince. And then once I finish it, I'll go to 7, and then I'll just start back over again. They're just so addictive. And I don't know. I guess I'll try and get us back on track somehow. But
I remember. The question was, do you feel like this is the book where you really got the sense that J.K. Rowling knew where she was going with the story and really started to like set those pieces on the chessboard?
Yeah, that's a good question, because as much as I've read it and cycled through, a lot of the stuff does kind of feel like partially yes, partially no.
Yeah, see, to me, this feels like phase 2 of the MCU, where there were a little bit of growing pains, but you could definitely sense like they started having an idea of, okay, we're going to culminate this. So let's get the Infinity Stones going. Let's, like I said, start putting pieces on the chessboard, so to speak.
Yeah.
The first three Harry Potter books are good, but like they could have led nowhere and would have felt like of a piece, and that's fine. This one, I mean, it ends on a cliffhanger, and all the stuff that happens, definitely it needs more stories after this to make sense. If this was like the end of the saga, you'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah. I think as I think more about it, I think you're right. Because when you look at the first 3, like the overarching thing is, Voldemort's out there, he might come back, but they're really 3 separate stories. They don't really, they don't need to intertwine so much. Whereas starting with this one going forward, it's all about the Second War. And that's the whole thing. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So yeah, I would say probably yes. She did decide like, hey, here's the pieces and here's how we're going to tie it together. And maybe it took her 3 or 4 books. Chaz would be a good one. I'm sure she's done behind the scenes research and stuff like that. Maybe it took her, those 3 books, maybe 3.5 books to figure out, oh, here's where it could go. Here's what I'm going to do. Things like that. So, yeah, I think I agree with you. Yeah, it does kind of feel like she kind of grabbed it and was like, okay, now I know where we're going. And I think that's a very good point. So John Phillips, interesting. He says, not a fan on how Ralph, I'm always bad on pronouncing his last name. I think it's Fiennes. Yeah. Not a fan on how Ralph Fiennes played Voldemort in Goblet. I am so used to how Jim Dale portrays his return. Jim Dale is the he does the audiobooks. They just released the Stephen Fry ones again, but I have the Jim Dale ones. John, I am going to be honest with you. I don't know if I have a preference, because I like both takes on it. I think they both work. In the movie, for sure, he's like teasing Harry pretty much in a way. He's just kind of almost prancing around, like just assuming he's just going to obliterate Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So the arrogance, I think, is excellent. But in the book, like, it's a lot more creepy. I think it's so. I don't have a problem with either of them. So
that's an interesting point, because I would love to know the behind the scenes and the timing of when like the audiobooks came out compared to the movies and whatnot, because there are a lot of character portrayals in Jim Dale's narration of the books that are so close to the movie version. It's like how when Thrawn came, again, Star Wars or Harry Potter, when Thrawn showed up in Rebels and, they had to invent a voice for the guy. What did he sound like? He sounded like Mark Thompson's version of the character from the Heir to the Empire trilogy.
Yeah. Very much so.
So they had no reason to acknowledge that was the voice of Thrawn. And same thing here where like Hagrid, for example, Hagrid's accent is damn near spot on between Jim Dale and I don't know the actor's name. I'm sorry. Who played Hagrid?
Robbie Coltrane.
Robbie Coltrane. Sorry. Thank you. That can't be a coincidence, right? Like they had to have that sound in their head either if audiobooks came second, they were mimicking the movies or vice versa, right? Like in this one, okay, so you had asked me prior to provide categories so we could kind of stay on topic. I want to talk about character changes and new characters. And
you were just reading the private chat too.
Right? I just want to start with new characters.
Sure.
Rita Skeeter.
Yes.
Is one of my favorite new characters introduced in this book. /movie.
Favorite why?
I mean, she's a shitheel for sure. Peter. Damn it, Kale.
Sorry.
Beaner Mort. I'm not even reading the comments.
Billy Judd said, at John Phillips, Rowan Atkinson, who's Mr. Bean, was going to be Voldemort. Kale said that would have been terrible. Chastity Crawley said, Mr. Voldemort? I mean, Lord Bean, oops. And that's why Kale said Beanamort.
Bean who shall not be named? Yeah.
He who shall not be Bean. Do it any way you want.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I love Rita Skeeter in the same way that I love Dolores Umbridge. They are absolutely, it's like pro wrestling. They are awesome heels. They're completely unlikable in all the right ways.
Okay.
I think they nailed her character in the movie for this one.
I would agree with that. They lessened her role. I mean, Chastity Crawley just actually said that. One of her issues with the film is that Rita's lessened role. Yeah. Again, Chaz, I think that's one of those things where you don't have to have it. I mean, it's good to have in the story for the film, but I don't think it's as big as some of the other things that go down. But yeah, I was going to ask you why it's like it's a favorite of yours, because I hate, and that's one thing that J.K. Rowling did so good in these books is like when you have, a good guy or a bad guy, it is so black and white, and I think that she does an excellent job. Like Umbridge, I just I want to claw my eyes out reading about her, because it's just like you just want her to die in the most miserable way, like as quickly as possible, so you can get on with your Harry Potter story, like, and Rita Skeeter is just being so slimy, especially, I mean, the book was written over 20 years ago, especially in our current climate where the media is pretty skeezy and you don't know what to believe. And I mean, it's really kind of, it is aged very well, I guess, or maybe it aged into itself. I would say, but whatever it is, it works very, very well because it's an extremely contemporary character right now.
Yeah. I think she nails the villains very well in that they're unlikable in all the ways they're supposed to be, rather than being unlikable in the I'm not entertained by this character way. And
yes.
And Rita Skeeter in this one is absolutely like that. I love that so much. I think they did her dirty in the movie a little bit. I think the character is great, but like Chastity said, there's not enough of her. And there's a couple character moments in the books that should have been retained, and they just didn't have time for it, unfortunately. But you just get, at least you get like the Daily Prophet and how they're kind of like a muckraker magazine because their most popular reporter is writing basically bald-faced lies, like soap operas. So
yeah,
I thought that was a really entertaining addition to the world, is this idea that like as much as wizards think they know what's going on, it's like such a stilted view of things it fits in Harry Potter, right? Like they got crooked houses and, anything you want to explain is just, well, that's how magic works. It's fine. Don't think about it too much. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, Rita Skeeter writing completely fake news stories in there is kind of part and parcel with the world. Like she's basically like the journalistic equivalent of Gilderoy Lockhart, isn't she?
Pretty much.
Like a total charlatan. And I love it. I think it's great because they actually allude to that in the book where I forget what Hermione mentions, says something. Oh, actually, no, that's a different reference. But there was a reference to Lockhart in this book. And I was like,
yeah,
that's brilliant. Like, so and the book doesn't dwell on it, which is nice too. And I think that's an advantage for the movie as well, is that anything that is a callback, they don't have time to like hang a lampshade on it and be like, remember this? It's just like, if you get it, you get it. And if not, we're moving on. Overall, the pacing of the movie, I think, is fast. It's good in that respect. It doesn't hang on the little moments too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I think the Rita Skeeter character, I just don't think that subplot is necessary. It's not something that stands out to you. If you're going to take 2 or 3 movies to do one book, okay, then you can expound upon that. But otherwise, there's not a real purpose to it. At least in cinematic form. I think it's perfect in the book, but in the movie, it's not really needed. It's just not. And I know Chastity, she's very much, in my camp of, if you're going to adapt it, do it right. But I think she's definitely wanting everything in there. And Chaz, I would say that I disagree with you on that, just because, you have to cut some stuff out if you're going to make a movie that isn't going to be bogged down with a 6-7 hour runtime. So as much as I love that stuff, I think the things that they chose to remove, Rita Skeeter being one of them, I think were smart choices. So that being said, I definitely agree that it's a great character because, like I said, I think you phrased it perfectly with the wrestling term. Like she's, like Umbridge, she's a great heel. So, the bullshit story writing, and then of course we know what happens to her later on, which we'll get to, at a different time, but is amazing. So when she gets her come up is really good. So, but
I will say, based on what they left of Rita Skeeter in the movie, to your point, I think they could have cut her entirely. Like her contributions to this story with what was left in the movie, you might as well just save those minutes for something else. Which is a shame because I think that the look of the character and the portrayal by the actress, amazing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that in all respects. I mean, it was a great performance. It definitely felt exactly like the character in the book. But yeah, because she was only in there that little PP bit, like, do you even need that? I mean, I guess if I had to posit on this, I would say that she's there to kind of give the Triwizard Tournament a feel in the movie that it's bigger than just something at Hogwarts. Because if you don't have, quote unquote, the media there,
true, yeah,
it just feels like it's like, end of school relay day that we used to have. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's do the crab race. Let's do the sack race and all that shit. So I think
the Daily Prophet was such a big deal, especially in book 3, right? With all the reporting on Sirius, that it would make sense that if something else big and anything big in the wizarding world is apparently going to end up in the newspaper. So yeah, you got to have someone there to report on the Triwizard Tournament.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think, could she be cut out? Yes, but I think that little bit makes the Triwizard Tournament feel bigger, which is obviously necessary. Because it's like, because really, when you think about it, as we mentioned earlier, the prior 3 books, they're standalone stories, but they're not really, the shadow of Voldemort is there. But it's really just kind of Harry's either at the Dursleys or he's at Hogwarts. So they're kind of small in scope. I think having Rita Skeeter there in the Daily Prophet and all this stuff kind of like takes it outside. Like, okay, well, the world at large actually cares about what the goings on at Hogwarts. Like, this is not just a school. It's not a private thing. Like, this is the world's watching. So could you have had her in there more? Yeah. But I don't think it'd be necessary.
To Chastity's point, she says it's international competition. It's much bigger than just Hogwarts. I do love that. I love that we've now been introduced to the idea that it's not just Hogwarts is the only wizarding school. England's not just the only country that has a wizarding population. Like, they're all over the world. I do love that.
Yep.
Now, I would be good. I don't know who should write it, but there's so much stuff to pull from in the wizarding world that I would love a take on. Like, I don't know what is going on over at Beauxbaton or going on at Durmstrang. You know, like we could follow other characters entirely in spin-off stuff. I would love
Durmstrang.
that. Yeah.
The German student in me always wants to pronounce it Durmstrang. Like,
they're from Bulgaria, dude.
Yeah.
They speak Bulgarian.
It's interesting you bring them up because that's something I kind of wanted to touch on. That I think a lot of people mention as a difference, and I think that it's kind of frowned upon. But in the book, both Durmstrang and Beauxbaton, they're they have
Beauxbaton,
Beauxbaton, whatever.
I speak French.
Boys and girls, right? In the movie, Beauxbaton is Beauxbaton. We all talk like a Maurice Chevalier. Mel Brooks, see the world reference.
Nice,
but yeah, in the movie, Beauxbaton is only girls and Durmstrang is only boys, and people have had a problem with that. I don't necessarily. To me, the Durmstrang being that way just doesn't matter at all. I would say that the interesting thing about that choice where Beauxbaton is concerned is that in the book, like, and
Beauxbaton, where? Sorry.
Yes, that was awesome.
We are still a Star Wars podcast, damn it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Chastity, let me know. And I might be remembering this wrong, Chaz, but I thought that the female Beauxbaton students were like some special race of like kale. Eaten by Sarlacc. Nice. But like they were almost like sirens. And like,
Velas.
Normal Velas, that's what it was. Okay. And so
they host This Old House.
Oh my God, we are the dumbest show
This is why
ever.
we have no viewership or ratings.
Oh my God.
We're all over the place. Okay, anyway.
That's amazing. But yeah,
I'm not going to explain that reference.
Yeah. I don't think you should. I don't think you need to. Yeah, see, Nick Hall got it. He's like, oof. Good to see you, Nick, man. I think Billy Judd says, will Bill and Fleur's crush and marriage happen in the show? I don't know what they're going to show in the show, Billy. I got to be honest with you. So that's to be seen. I'm not sure. But anyway, to the Beauxbaton thing, like my recollection when I think about overarching plot points is the Vila aspect of things where they're just like irresistible to normal boys, that kind of thing. So to make them only female in the movie kind of made sense to me.
Mm-hmm. So
people are saying, oh, they shouldn't have done that. Like, to me, that kind of makes sense though, because when you think about Beauxbaton, you think about that, and you think about the female side. You're not thinking about Joe Chevalier, whatever. You're thinking about Fleur and that kind of stuff, and the long flowing blonde hair, and the kiss kind of burns when they kiss you in a way. It's like this warmth or whatever. So I don't have a problem with that. And Durmstrang, I don't think it mattered at all. So I find that, and we'll get to nitpicks later, but I mean, if that's a nitpick to me, that doesn't, Chaz says only Fleur is part Vila. Okay. Why am I remembering that they all were?
I think so. This is something that I noticed in
I'm
the tone of
thinking of a whole other book. I think
I'm in what
confusing.
might be a I don't know if this is subject jump or not, but this is a good jumping off point. So I feel like this is the main cast is, I think, 14 at this point. I think that was the birthday that Harry had in this book.
Actually, you know, an easy way to think about it. If you think
He was 11 in year one, right?
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. If you
So he's 14 now.
Yeah, so like he's 11 in book 1, 12 in book 2, 13 that's how it works. It's I don't know if she did that on purpose. I would like to think so, and I'll just say that she did, and that's fucking brilliant.
So this is a very thirsty book. They're really starting to. She really leans into the fact that like these kids are starting to recognize that there are some romantic possibilities out there, and they might have some feelings about that. I really like that part, actually.
No, I agree with that.
A really cool inclusion. And one thing that I noticed in this is that in reading, so circling back to a question I never asked, I was getting there and I never did. Did you watch the movie first or read the book first?
Oh, I always read the book first.
Okay, same. I didn't like Harry in this book. I thought he was insufferable. He was such a drama king, and just like, woe is me, and my life is terrible, and it's so hard being Harry Potter, and blah blah blah. You know what 14-year-olds are like? They're exactly like that. Like, it was brilliant. When I realized that I was not enjoying the way these characters were acting, these kids were acting, I was like, they're acting like 14-year-olds. That's brilliant. Yeah, like he was kind of insufferable, and Ron was kind of insufferable, and Hermione is always kind of unlikable. That's the point. It's like she's the nerd that's too bossy and whatever. I was like, that's exactly what 14-year-olds act like. They are so hung up on their own drama and bullshit that the rest of the world pales by comparison. So while Harry's busy pining over Cho Chang the whole time, and we're just going to skip right past the name and not have any commentary on that. Like, that's exactly what a 14-year-old would do. Like, I remember when I was 14 and I had my first crush, and damn it, you know, every bit of attention I wasn't paid by that person was like a dagger through the heart. And then every time I tried to make any sort of an overture and it didn't go over well, I just wanted to bury myself in the ground until I suffocated. Like, there was nothing that could have pulled me out of my depression from failing at that. And Harry's the same way. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and they even say, like, in that 20th anniversary special, you know, the actors say that because the kids were kind of basically the same age as the characters they were portraying, like there was a lot of hormones going on the set too. So it was like art imitating life.
They look kind of funny in this movie, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the brilliance of the writing of all of this stuff, and we'll get back to Goblet of Fire specifically in a minute. But I think that's part of the brilliance of this series is like it's so well thought out and well planned in terms of the timing. Like, you know, Chastity, you know, she confirmed that J.K. Rowling purposely, you know, he's 11 in year 1, year 2 he's 12, year 3, so that, you know, those numbers line up perfectly. Like that sort of thing is just awesome. And then, you know, to your this is a total random one. Angelina Sereni says, hello, Virtual Cantina Network. I have a question for you both. This is off topic. She says, Virtual Cantina Network, do you think Keanu Reeves would play a great Darth Revan? Not at all. His acting style just would not do well, I think, as a Sith Lord in any way. I don't think he'd do good as a Jedi either. There's our next episode. What characters could Keanu Reeves play?
Yeah, no Keanu in our Star Wars, please, I guess is the answer.
And I love Keanu Reeves, but yeah. Kale, Darth Revan, maybe. Stop it. I've always heard it pronounced Revan. Kale, just stop it. But anyway, yeah, I think oh damn it. private chat. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I think that's the brilliance of the writing. Oh,
So this is another like 14-year-old, very like middle school / junior high drama thing. Kale says, Ronald would like Ronald. I love that she says Ronald, by the way.
Yeah.
Would like me to tell you that Seamus told him that Dean was told by Pavarti that Hager's looking for you. Like, isn't that the most age perfect thing right there?
Yeah.
And then
I'm not an owl.
Right. And the follow up here, Chastity says, Kale, which bugs me because that never happens in the book. Why add that random extra? I think that was a very efficient way of explaining the whole like Ron's not talking to Harry and vice versa thing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I completely agree.
That is my struggle with this movie, is trying to figure out, like you said, if you're going to do the book, do it right. But they had to make a lot of concessions. So do we like those concessions or not? And the answer is yes to some, no to others for me. What do you think?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, some things were rushed, but again, I think it hits on all the major plot points, because you have to start thinking about what else you're going to remove if you're going to keep certain things in. Again, the perfect example is the maze. They short shrifted the maze because of you just couldn't have it be as big and grandiose in the movie as it was in the book, because you had already dedicated time to this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So and again, it hits on all the major points that when I think of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, it hits on all the stuff that I think about. I don't think about Spew. I don't think about Rita Skeeter. I think about the Triwizard Tournament. I think about Mad Eye Moody, that whole subplot with the Polyjuice Potion, and then I think about Voldemort's return. And that's something I think they did great. Voldemort returns, Harry comes back, is like, he's back, and all of a sudden the movie basically kind of just, okay, the movie's over, click. It happens so fast. It's like they don't dwell on anything. They're like, no, Voldemort's back. That's what you need to know. Out. Let's get on to the fifth movie. So
I do have an issue with the ending for that reason. The book spends a lot more time after Harry gets back. And I like that. I like that they dwell on the point. Like it's this fervent thing. You're like, oh my God, is Harry going to live? Is Harry going to live? What's going on with this? And then he gets back and you're like, okay, well, that's got to be the end of the story, right? Like Harry survived Voldemort. Great. Good job. No, they're like, a kid died. And it's treated like this is a gut punch to the entire wizarding world. Like, holy shit. Yes, Voldemort's back. And that's scary as hell right there. But also, a kid was just straight up murdered. Like it's the first of what seems like it's going to be many murders in a row because Voldemort's back. And I love that they dwelled on that, and they ended this book on such a downer, but not in like it's like Stephen King. Like it's hard to read, but you're compelled to continue. I thought they did a much better job in the book of hanging on that point than the movie did.
See, again, I'll reference what I said earlier. This is like, and Chastity, she's with you. She says, yes, AJ, they cut out a lot of explanation after the maze. They needed to keep it. See, again, I'm going to disagree.
I'm going to challenge Chastity.
Okay.
Chastity, you're saying on all the points that we talk about things being cut out, you're like, keep it. We've got 2.5 hours. So if you're keeping, what are you cutting?
And that was my point. Like you can't keep everything. And I think, again, the point still gets across. And I think them cutting to the ending so quickly after Voldemort's return to Harry coming back and stuff like that makes sense for the films. Excuse me. Because you want to have the last thing you remember is Cedric Diggory's murdered, Voldemort's back, and credits. Like you don't want to have something else there that kind of takes your focus off it, because a movie audience is different from a book audience. So you need to keep the important stuff at the forefront of the movie going audience's mind. And I think if you add crap after Voldemort and the death, you're risking diluting the impact of that. So, yeah, I think they did the movies incredibly well, because you still, I think if you watch the movies and then you read the books, you get all of the major stuff you need from the movies, but then the books flesh all this other stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, almost none of it feels completely superfluous, but I think you can understand why it wasn't in the movies. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing. Chastity, just to clarify, like I said, I'm not against, I just made my own point of saying that I wish they dwelled on the seriousness of Cedric dying. But again, if you're going to keep this and that, then you've only got so much runtime. So where would you make the cuts to preserve all these other things that you say needed to stay in? I don't have that answer. That's why I'm asking.
See, this would see, if Chaz was on, it would just be me and her debating. You would just be a moderator, because she says there's stuff they made up and changed when it happened that messes with the flow. I disagree with that. And then she says you need the explanation from Barty Crouch Jr. You need the explanation from Dumbledore. I don't think you do. Again, the movies are made to be a Cliff Notes version of the novels, and you get the point of what they're trying to do. The Goblet of Fire is about the Triwizard Tournament. It's about Moody, the whole Barty Crouch Jr. thing, trying, helping to bring Voldemort back, or hand Harry Potter to Voldemort, I should say, and Voldemort returning.
Mm-hmm.
You get that in the movie. You get those points. So it's not taking anything away. And I think all of the movies hit on it. I've said many times, and I will continue to say it whenever we do one of these Harry Potter episodes, the one thing that I have a massive problem with is changing the ending of the whole entire thing in the 8th movie. That was fucking stupid. That was, and the guy even says, like, I mean, the guy said something like, he's like, well, I wanted something more this, more that. Well, you know what, dude? I don't give a shit what you want. Okay.
Yeah. You were hired to make a movie about a book, not write your own.
Like, yeah. I always liken it to singing in a cover band. I try to sing the songs exactly as they are on the record.
Yeah, I didn't like that melody, so I wrote my own.
Exactly. You know what? You weren't good enough to write it in the first place. So perform properly. And people aren't there. They're not coming to see my band Brother Believe Me because they want to hear our interpretation of popular songs. No, they want to see a live band play popular songs well. And it's the same thing with
nice plug, by the way, very subtle.
I always do that. But and it's the same thing with movies like this. It's like I'm not going to this movie to see what you would have done with this intellectual property, because I don't give a shit. I'm there to see the intellectual property. So don't be changing stuff. I don't want your interpretation of it. Leave it the fuck alone. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason,
I'm always torn on this, though, because you can get stuff like Lord of the Rings, for example. There's a lot of interpretation, and Peter Jackson freely admits in the copious behind the scenes where he talks about, like, Shelob. Shelob was in book 2, was in the Two Towers. He moved that back to Return of the King because the way he was playing out the story, it made more sense to put it there instead. So sometimes there are some changes where the filmmaker's like, look, based on the way we're playing the story out, it makes sense. Like, for example, if you're not going to have the house elves subplot, then Dobby giving the gillyweed doesn't make sense, because then you got to explain why the hell is Dobby popping up all of a sudden.
Exactly.
So there are changes that make sense. And sometimes there's just weird stuff that doesn't make sense. Like the example I always go back to is, remember when our dad was talking about the Sherlock Holmes Club, and he was going on about the movies where, I forget which story it was, but one of the characters was from Italy in it was a TV show, it was a PBS show. Yeah. They just changed like the country that the character was from, and it had no bearing on the story. Like, why wouldn't you just say the person is from their original country instead of making them Italian all of a sudden? It had no bearing. There was no reason to change that plot point, but they just did. Like, no, that's a dumb change. But if it's a change, like, we don't have this character in our story because it's too much extra meat, extra fluff, so we have to give that character's story beats to another character. Now I get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Chaz is saying, well, you need spew. I will fight that point. I'll gladly fight about it. You do not need spew. The house elves have nothing to do with they have nothing to do with the Triwizard Tournament. They have nothing to do with the return of Voldemort. They have nothing to do with, Moody actually being Barty Crouch Jr. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter.
Now, speaking of changes that they did make
in the movies,
I'm not really
in the movies.
Yeah, in the movies that I'm not actually clear about. Why did they put Barty Crouch in the room with Voldemort and Wormtail at the beginning?
That I don't know.
I mean, it was not revealed until very much later in the book.
Well, it was in the book. If I yeah,
he was not.
Oh, no, he's not. He's not in the book. He's not in the book. That's correct. Yeah, it's just Wormtail.
It wasn't until his reveal as Mad Eye with Polyjuice Potion. It wasn't until that you even knew that he was a character to worry about in the book. So why they introduced him first in the movie, I'm not really sure how that clarified anything. They were like, oh, we got to put him in there, otherwise audiences won't understand. Like,
the only thing I could think of is you saw him for a quick second there, and then they had that flashback scene to the whole courtroom, and you're like, oh, it's that guy from the beginning of the movie. So I think it kind of made him more nefarious and kind of like more front of mind. Like it looks like the guy matters. But again, those are changes. I think those are the sorts of things you have to have, because if the guy just pops up out of nowhere, you're like, who the hell is this clown? In a book, it can work. In a movie, I don't think it would, because you're like, well, who the hell is this guy? It's basically just some random Death Eater, and you're like, okay, well, what the hell is that? But if you saw the guy at the beginning, and you're like, well, okay, you may not barely remember him, then you see him in the court scene, like turning, you are no son of mine. You're like, oh my God, that guy's kind of important. Like, the Minister of Magic, it's his kid, and his kid's a Death Eater, and then that turns out to be the guy who was
significant.
We need to do an episode about that movie. Let's do a watch along of that movie. Right. I haven't seen that. I haven't watched it in forever. Yeah, I think they have to show him so that at the end he's not just, he's not a jag, as they say in football, just a guy. It's like, oh, it's that guy. Like, he's so dag nasty evil that he just, basically tried to hand Harry Potter to Voldemort, So.
Okay, that does make sense. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I tried my best to crush through the book and the movie, and I got partway through both. So I'm working on some old information here.
And Chaz wants to come on to explain. It's like we don't have a ton of time left in the show. Otherwise, I would do that. But I mean, Chaz, I think you're a monstrous fan of the books, which I completely understand because I am too. I just think you have to look at them as separate entities. Again, I don't think I can phrase it any better than to say that the movies are the Cliff Notes version of the novels. It's like, let's hit the important points and move on. All the other stuff, no. And I say that because I think the movies do a fine job of establishing the characters as they're meant to be understood. You understand the kind of tension, romantic tension between Ron and Hermione. You understand that Hermione's the nerd that never stops going to the library. You understand that Draco Malfoy's a dickhead. Crabbe and Goyle are ignorant lugs that, big dumpy, Rancor morons. Like you get all that stuff from the movies. Nothing to me changes the vibe of the novel when I watch the movie. It's all there. It's not like watching the Solo film and having to get used to Alden Ehrenreich being, Han Solo, which you do, because we won't get into that because I love that movie. But, but at first your brain's like, yeah, like, is this Han Solo? But in the Harry Potter movies, like, yeah, that's Harry, that's Ron, that's Hermione, that is Hagrid. that is so and so. Like they do an excellent job of getting that across. So things they cut out, to me, in the context of what you're putting in a film, are superfluous.
I can see
that. Yeah,
I can see that. Billy Judd's talking about they omitted Harry meeting Bill and Charlie like in the book. Why didn't they add it in the movie? Again, I think that's one of those things where you can get the beats of the story across without having to spend screen time on him meeting them.
Yeah.
Does it really matter that, oh, I know that dragon handler over there? That's one of the Weasleys. No, not really. I mean, it would help set up for, help me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Half-Blood Prince where he's reintroduced because he's getting married to Fleur.
Yeah, they're talking about
That's
that.
Bill,
yeah,
right?
Half-Blood Prince. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bill's the dragon handler.
Yeah.
There's so many damn Weasleys. I keep trying to keep them straight.
Well, and that's I think that's why, honestly, it's funny you say that. I think that's why they cut those characters out as much as they did, because there's already a shitload of Weasleys on screen anyway. You got the twins, you got Ron, you got Ginny, you got Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. You've got 6 Weasleys already. So to take the other ones out, it's like, okay, did you miss Zeppo? Here, you want to go back to some references? Did you miss Zeppo when he left the Marx Brothers in the films? Like, no. You're like, hey, that other guy's not there. Yeah, but you got Chico, Groucho, and Harpo. And I will never get used to calling him Chico. But anyway.
And I mean, that many gingers plus Robert Pattinson in a movie. Come on now. I mean, we've already got enough daywalkers. We don't need more. Right. That was the nice thing about Goblet of Fire, at least the movie, was we did get to see Robert Pattinson get killed. I was rooting for it in Twilight, so and Batman. To be honest, I don't know. The guy's just got a punchable. I wish you were Abracadabra. Yeah.
Avada Kedavra, yeah.
Avada Kedavra, yeah. So.
Oh yeah. By the way, Billy Judd, good point. Thank you for correcting us. Charlie is the dragon handler.
Oh shit! See.
Yes.
Bill, you're saying is
Bill's the Gringotts guy, I think. Is he the Gringotts guy? Damn it! One of them is Chaz. Which one's the Gringotts guy? Like the banker guy?
Percy's at the Ministry.
Handler? Yeah, Percy's the a-hole.
Yeah.
In any case, Chaz will correct us. She might be out being pissed at us, but see, one last thing on this, and then we'll move on. But Kale says spew was important, maybe not to the Triwizard Cup, but that whole thing made the world feel lived in, made the whole thing real. Well, see, but here's the thing, Kale. Like I completely agree with that. In terms of that being in the novel, in the movie, you already have enough there to make it feel real and lived it all. Like that is just something that in the movie would feel completely superfluous. Where would you put that while Harry is fighting the Hungarian horntail? He's trying to figure out what the hell the egg is doing. Where are you going to put this crap with Hermione? Like, it would just be like it would literally be a subplot. It wouldn't matter. It would just be something she's doing while she's talking to Ron and Harry in the common room. She'd just be sitting there knitting hats and chucking them on the table. Like, why are you doing that? Oh, well, like trying to free them and stuff like that. Spew, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it wouldn't matter anyway. It wouldn't do anything. It would just be something she's doing while they're telling you about the more, important stuff going on. So, okay, there you go. Yeah. So Bill Weasley was in Gringotts, Egypt as a curse handler, and Charlie was the dragons. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the theme we keep coming around to here, and this is why I love like the completely extemporaneous format of our show, is I don't know where this thing, we pick a topic and then we're like, at the end, we have to figure out what the hell did we just come up with?
Right.
Do you feel like this is, again, being the second longest of the books, is this just too much book to adapt into one movie? Because we got some really divided opinions here in the comments section and amongst ourselves of like what should have stayed, what should have been cut. And I think the movie in general feels a little disjointed, and it's more like an accounting of events than a story, a narrative. It's more just like, okay, we got to show this, got to show this, got to show this, got to show this, got to show this. We're 2.5 minutes, run credits.
I could see where you would look at it that way, but I don't agree. I think it's fine. By the way, John Phillips 100% agree. He said if Spew is put in, you need to put Winky in also, and then what? Winky just basically, God, I'm hiccuping like crazy. Winky got freed, and then she's miserable and getting, she's an alcoholic and stuff. So do you want an alcoholic house elf in the movie?
Plus,
no.
Podcasters are going to make all the Winky jokes. At least we will. So
exactly right.
Sorry, my Winky is drunk. We can go on from there.
Dump out. Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think. Is it too? I think it works fine. Is it too much book to adapt into a single movie? I can see where people would say that. I mean, 2 movies would be good just because of I think anything past the 3rd novel would be that way.
Nick Hall, anything is better than a Bob Vila joke.
Come on, Nick, you're just pissed that you didn't think of it first. Yeah, Chastity says Winky builds into the Crouch family issues, but the Crouch family issues don't matter. They don't matter in the movies. It's a side story that doesn't affect the main narrative. So why have it? I mean, it doesn't have to be there. It's kind of like, like the deleted scene in Return of the Jedi, where it shows Luke building his lightsaber, messing with his lightsaber in the cave on Tatooine. You don't need it. He shows up, he's got a lightsaber. You're like, holy shit, how did Luke get a lightsaber? And then later on, Darth Vader, one line, I see you have constructed a new lightsaber. There you go. That's how he got it. Like, you don't need to see how the fuck he built the thing.
But
so
that comes back to my original point earlier of, maybe the framework of this should have been, a 3-act story, right? So maybe the 3-act story should have been Triwizard Tournament. Act 1 is, 1, 2, 3. And then in the context of telling those sub adventures, like you were saying, you call back through dialogue or flashback or whatever, use whatever plot device you need or narrative device you need to fill in the reasons that this makes sense now. Because I feel like the book has enough time to breathe and tell it in a sequential way. I feel like the movie doesn't. The movie needs to be, here's the Triwizard Tournament. Oh shit, Voldemort's all behind it. That's the meat of the story. And I feel like they tried to stick to the format of the book in a way that didn't accommodate 2.5 hours of storytelling.
Okay. I mean, I agree to disagree on this one. To me, this book is about Voldemort's return in the Triwizard Tournament, and that's what you get in the movie. So
what I got from the story in the larger scope of things, and I would love to get your take as well. We were talking about how this is like the turning point, right? I feel like the Triwizard Tournament was a good way to show. I mean, the character went through it, but also the audience got to learn about Harry leveling up. Like, it's not just, hey, these spells are fun. It's like, you can kill a guy if you do this right, or you can kill yourself if you do it wrong. Between aspirating and Cruciato and the death curse that I can't say, so I'm not even going to try.
Avada Kedavra, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Clearly, I'm not a wizard. But yeah, so I feel like the theme of this book is informing everybody that Harry does have the potential to stand up to Voldemort. And these trials that he went through are just showing. I mean, what was the main lesson that fake Mad Eye was talking about with how to overcome the dragon? He's like, what are you good at? Like, the characters are all like, dude, you've got this. You just need to figure out how. Like, what is your special talent that makes you able to handle this? Yeah. So this is where Harry gets that awakening to say, like, I can hold my own. I just need to work on these things. Like, what's the main takeaway that you got from this book?
See, if I just think about it off the top of my head, I think of the Triwizard Tournament. And I kind of feel like it might be similar to what you just said. I kind of feel like when I think about it, it's like Harry can hold his own. I think it's like he can do things on that particular level. He's advanced in his magic, and he might be able to do some stuff. But then I also think it does an excellent job of it builds that up to where it's like, oh, he's going up against all these 17-year-olds and he prevails. But then when he actually gets up against Voldemort, it takes all the the ghosts of people that are gone to help him get the hell out of there without getting slaughtered. So it kind of like he gets that kind of hope, I would say, but then gets knocked right back down to earth, saying, "Okay, you still got a ways to go." It's kind of like it's almost identical to you wanted to compare to Star Wars, the Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader thing. He's going to confront Vader in Empire, and he impressive, most impressive. Like he holds his own for a minute, but then Vader just beats him down. But then you get that again in Jedi, and Luke can overcome, and that's kind of what I think you have here.
Yeah, like surviving is the victory.
Yeah, so I think this is the Luke Vader battle from Empire. I think that's what you have in Goblet of Fire with Harry and Voldemort, and then you have the Luke Vader fight from Jedi in Deathly Hallows.
So that makes Cedric Diggory Luke Skywalker's right hand then.
Well, you have two hands, so kill the spare. You only need one. But
you called it, man.
yeah. No, but I mean, to your original question, I mean, I guess you could say it's too much novel to put into one movie. But again, I'll die on this hill, man. I think they did an excellent job with this movie. And honestly, with all of them, I don't feel short shrifted by any of the movies in terms of what they kept, and what they cut. I feel like the heart and soul of the main story through line comes through. So.
Okay. Well, this is the divide that I was asking about is, do you feel like the themes of the story in terms of like the larger 7-book saga were communicated effectively, or were they just good at relaying the events as told in the book? Like you said, Triwizard Tournament, that's the big thing. Okay, well, is the Triwizard Tournament the big thing, or is the Triwizard Tournament a vehicle to show what Harry is capable of? I feel like the Triwizard Tournament is a great little gimmick for books 1 through 3. They could just be like, oh, this is the adventure of the year for this year of Harry Potter's career at Hogwarts. But they use it in this context to be like, oh, it's a big deal and it's going to lead to more. So that's I think the distinction is that I think the book does a better job of broadening the world to such an extent that you understand that what's going on at Hogwarts in this book is just a microcosm. It's just all the tensions of the larger wizarding world and Voldemort's return are focused on this one thing, whereas the movie feels much more like this one thing is the meat of the story, and it has some. We'll tie into it later, but just let's focus on what an adventure Harry's having.
I mean, I can't argue with you on that. I can understand where you're coming from. Yeah, no. But again, like I can see that side of it. But for me, it doesn't bother me. It works. But I can't say that you're wrong for looking at it that way, because I could easily see how the interpretation could be that. Again, for me, I didn't see it that way. I thought it was enjoyable. Again, and I did it. Like I said, I read the book and then I watch the movie. And when I did that, none of the movies pissed me off except for the end of the 8th movie. I'm like, that's not how it ends. Other than that, I was like, all right, cool. And some things obviously were different a little bit, but they weren't so jarring where I was like, what the fuck is that? And so to me, it was fine. So
All right.
I just
Sorry. Continue. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, like I said, I view them as two separate entities, but they tell the same story. It's like, and I've talked about this before when we talk about, book adaptations. I always bring up The Dark Tower by Stephen King. That movie is crazy different, and it misses the vibe. It misses the story. It misses everything. And they make changes that are completely needless and actually ruin the story going forward, which is why they haven't continued that movie series. And this doesn't do that. To me, it's like, yeah, this is what I think of when I think of the Goblet of Fire or any of the movies. And I also think it's kind of awesome that it's that way, because it's kind of cool having two different. I'll use the term interpretation. It's not an interpretation because J.K. Rowling wrote it. That's fact and fiction. It's set in stone. But you know what I'm saying. It's like I think if you watch the movie, you are entertained and you get the full point of everything. But then if you go read the book, you get all this extra stuff, but you still get what you got in the movie. I can compare it to, since I've mentioned Stephen King, The Green Mile. The Green Mile is one of the very best Stephen King adaptations because it only changes up like one or two things. They're pretty minor. So if you watch the movie and you enjoy it, and then you go read the book, you get the story beats that you know from the movie, but you get this extra stuff that just fleshes it out. And it's awesome because one doesn't ruin the other. So,
okay, I like that contrast. I really do. So I wanted to bring up a couple of images here because I feel like there's also a big tonal shift. We were talking about this earlier, how this is the gateway. Like you got 1, 2, 3. This is the transition film, and then 5, 6, 7. And the books are largely the same, but I feel like it's a more gradual curve in the books than it is in the movies. So there's been a criticism. As you know, I'm a huge Lego nerd, and you're a smaller Lego nerd.
Yeah.
So this is the new annual Harry Potter. It would be called Ultimate Collector Series if it wasn't exclusive to Star Wars.
Okay.
Lego set of Hogsmeade Village, right? And one of the criticisms of this set is that it's just kind of drab. Like when you think of like they did Diagon Alley, for example, and all the buildings were like bright and colorful and cartoonish almost, and that was the aesthetic established in the first movie. And this one, they're like, oh, it's kind of drab. But what I want to show is I want to compare it to how it appears in the movie. Because in the movie, you also get that same shift. So in the movie, this is what Hogsmeade looks like. There is like no color.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. Now, this is personal preference. I'd love to hear the chat weigh in on this too. You notice that the color gets more drab throughout the movies. The movies in general get darker.
Yes.
Not just in tone, but
Great
also
point.
visually. Like more things happen at night. The colors are desaturated, blah, 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 blah. Are you a fan of that? Or do you feel like for such a magical, like fun place to live in, is this going a little bit too grim?
No, I don't think so. Because I think you've already established it's a magical world. And I think to use color to explain the fact that they're in trouble, I think is a great choice. Because it's kind of like music. They say, check out certain famous movie scenes with and without the music in it, and they're completely different without music. They don't terrify you as much, they don't inspire you as much, this, that, and the other. And so I think, the use of color is the same. It's the same thing. It's basically, using emotion to tell your story. And, if let's say right now we're in the 7th or the 8th movie, and Voldemort is basically in everybody's head going, yeah, I'll kill everybody if you don't turn over Harry Potter. Do you want to see like a rainbow kaleidoscope Skittle City? Like, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good point.
hell
That's a
no.
very good
Like,
point.
yeah. So I think it was very, very well done. You have to get the point across that they're in mortal peril. I mean, it's a dangerous time. And so things aren't happy. I mean, nobody's mood is up. I mean, you're going to see like Luna Lovegood walking around in like bright pink rainbow robes going, hey, Rex Spritz. Yeah, but
she's my bae.
Yeah, dude, I think it was great. I think it was great.
I agree, actually. This complaint of like, oh, the Lego set's not colorful enough. Well, it's not colorful in the movie, and the Lego set is based off the movie. And tonally, the books get darker as well. So yes, drop the color down, you increase the stakes. It's a very simple way to explain it. Yeah. I'm all on board personally.
Yeah.
The Lego thing is another whole thing though, because the price of Lego is insane now, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole other thing. I think they did a great job. Like, and I think that kind of a full circle comment, but I think they did a great job with the whole movie, because you have those light moments like the Yule Ball, and so you still got those kind of kid moments, but then you've got the Triwizard Tournament, and then Voldemort Returns. Like, I going back to my original point about this one, this is my favorite novel because it is right at that tipping point, and I just love it because it doesn't lean too heavily to either side. It's right there in the middle. It's like that third bowl of porridge. They balance, the whole, it's true. You mentioned it earlier, basically puberty. They balance the whole puberty thing with, this insane giant adventure with Voldemort returning and basically the second war starting. They have all these different things. And I just think the novel does it so well. It has all these different things going on, and it works. And I think the movie takes the most important parts of it and uses them, I should say. And it works. I still get the vibe from the movie that I get from the book. And that's really the most important thing. If you're not sitting there going, well, what the hell is this? Like if you're watching the Hobbit movies, you're like, well, wait a minute, that character didn't even exist. What the hell are we doing here? Like, why are we adding a character to Tolkien? That's pretty jarring, and it's shitty.
We will absolutely not bring up those movies. No, I'm enough of that.
Well,
the less said about those movies, the better.
I've mentioned on the show before about that Icons on Earth series that I watched on Amazon Prime about Star Wars. Well, they have one about Lord of the Rings, and it was fascinating. And the behind the scenes on The Hobbit is it's pretty hilarious. So, man, Chastity, like, I love you, but you are officially one of those people, at least where this is concerned, I think you're nitpicking it too much. Chaz is in the chat complaining that the color of the spells in the graveyard were wrong and the color of Hermione's dress was wrong. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, those are details that can be glossed over. I agree.
Yeah. So I that's what I'm saying, Chaz. I think you're so slavishly loyal to the books that you're kind of missing the enjoyment factor of the film. And I get it. Like I say, like I'm, I think I've said on the show before, like, next month, about a month from now, The Long Walk is coming out, Stephen King adaptation. I'm going through the audiobook again right now, and I'm going to be pissed if they screw it up. But the advanced reviews say it's really, 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 really good. And I've seen the trailer for The Running Man, which is coming out in November, another Stephen King book, about 1 million times. And I'll be pissed if they don't nail at least the vibe of it. You got to get these things right. And I just have to disagree with you, Chastity. I think this movie gets the main points and the main feel of the Goblet of Fire novel. I think it gets it right. So,
all right. So I want to wrap up with this.
Sure.
What is your favorite and your least favorite thing about the movie?
Favorite and least favorite. Oh. It's always difficult.
Actually, we'll say the story. We're doing book and movie, so we'll just say story.
I don't know that I have a least favorite. Oh no, the book. I thought the spew thing was stupid. It's like, let it go, man. House elves. That's what they want to do. That's what they like to do. Leave them alone. I just thought Hermione was. This is the only time in the entire series I thought she was overbearing. So I would say spew in the novel. Favorite thing was the Triwizard Tournament. I think I always fall back on that because it's kind of like the other main quests in the books kind of had this major kind of life or death, the kind of life or death stakes to them. You had the basilisk in Chamber of Secrets. You had Quirrell with Voldemort on the back of his head, like in Sorcerer's Stone. Sirius Black was going to murder everybody until you find out the whole big plot twist at the end, that kind of thing. And even then, you have to go back in time and you got to save all these people. The Triwizard Tournament to me was like, I thought it was done incredibly well because it was, you had that adventure and like the quote unquote boss battle thing, idea, like as you and I would call it, but you had it 3 times and it was kind of more in a fun vein, which I think was great considering the end of this book was, hey, Voldemort's actually here. Everyone's basically screwed. So I love that because it's like you get that last kind of kiddie-ish adventure. It's much more serious than that, obviously, but they did kind of make it out to be like a contest. And even though they say, oh, people can die during this, like you never were reading or watching thinking, well, someone's going to die. And I think that's why Cedric dying was kind of such a shock. Because you're like, wait, one of the main guys does die? You're like, what the hell? So yeah, I would say the Triwizard Tournament. I really like that. It's kind of like the last happy fun thing that we get in these books before all hell breaks loose and you're just down in the muck of the Second War. So yeah. What about you? What are your favorite and least favorite things?
So mine are more in terms of like theme than specific plot points. One thing I noticed, especially in the book, is that there's a lot more focus on fleshing out other characters. So the scope is pulled back, and yes, it focuses on Harry, but you get just the little things like, Neville flashing back to, the Cruciatus curse and, what did his parents in, and the reminder that the death curse was what killed Harry's parents and that kind of stuff. The idea that they pulled back enough to say all these things that and have seen of these characters at Hogwarts, they exist within a larger framework, and we're going to show you that, and we're going to basically make you aware that it's not all about what goes on at Hogwarts. What goes on at Hogwarts is just a subsection of the things going on in the larger world that we're going to tell you about. Obviously you don't know in real time in 5, 6, and 7, but this is that first intimation that says okay, you know these characters. Now we're going to give you some context on these characters that exist outside of Hogwarts. So Neville's parents and all that kind of stuff. I love that. Mad Eye Moody and the Aurors and all that stuff. So that's my favorite thing about the book, is that it broadens the scope and it recontextualizes a lot of what we already know into a larger tapestry. So it gives the whole saga like more room to breathe, you know?
Sure.
Least favorite thing, Chastity, you're going to hate me. It's Spew. That storyline goes nowhere. It's not even necessary to the books. It's just another storyline, especially in the movie. I'm glad they cut it, because in going through the book again, it just felt like they didn't have enough for Hermione to do. So they had to give her own little subplot.
That's an
Even the
excellent way to
characters in
phrase
the
that.
books
Wow.
don't give a shit.
Yeah.
The characters in the books don't give a shit. Like the refrain in the book is, yeah, she tried to get people signed up and they didn't care. Okay, great. So she's a busybody. That's all we learned about Hermione in this book.
Wow. Okay.
already
So we're
knew
in
that.
agreement there.
Yeah, I don't think this book did anything for Hermione.
All right. Look at this. Chaos says, what? Hang on. Oh, hell yes, it is. Spew's basically vital to the overall ending of the series. No. No, it's not. Spew did not help Harry beat Voldemort.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did Dobby deal the killing blow? No.
I mean,
Winky
yet Dobby.
being a drunk didn't do anything.
Yeah. Dobby
we'll get
still
to
got
it. I forget the character's name of the house elf that
Creature.
Sirius Black was.
Creature.
Oh yeah, Creature, exactly. Yeah, love these characters, but in terms of like, it's Harry versus Voldemort. It's the return of Voldemort. The house elves don't really do much.
Kale says it gets Ron and Hermione together.
Does not matter to the overall story.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't even know that I'd agree with that. Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, this is the brilliant thing, though. I don't revisit this stuff nearly as often as you do. So as we go on through the books, I'll pay attention to that. I want to see like how Ron and Hermione get together and how much the house elves have something to do with that. Because Ron does not give a shit about the rights of the house elves in this book.
Yeah. 100. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, I don't know
Even
about that,
Hagrid
dude.
doesn't. Hagrid loves everyone. So
yeah, right. If you're a weird creature and Hagrid ain't into you, you don't matter.
right.
So-
If you're like, you should care about this, and Hagrid's like, no, you shouldn't. You
Yeah.
probably shouldn't.
Exactly. Well, all right. Well, on that note, why don't we close up shop here? Yeah, that is my favorite Harry Potter novel. I don't know if it's my favorite movie. I haven't thought about which one is my favorite movie, but it's definitely my
I need to
favorite
marathon
novel.
these things because we revisit these like every 3 to 6 months. It's too far between for me to really like start forming a ranking system so far. I need to binge them. I'll do that after we get through the rest.
There you go. Maybe that'll be one of our things next year. We'll have a Harry Potter binge. So, but until then, we have a couple more books to go and several more episodes of the Nerf Herder Council. Something I wanted to mention before we get out of here, man. This is actually kind of crazy. We have, let me think, 2, 4, 6. We only have about 6 episodes, maybe 7, until we get to do our 10th anniversary show. I was thinking about that the other day.
Yes,
No.
that's right.
As much as we joke about, we don't have viewers and listeners and not many, that kind of stuff, which is true. We also are one of the very few shows that have lasted for that long. So I have to admit, hopefully people don't think I have an ego for this. I'm really proud of that because I think it shows that the reason that we started the show in the first place still continues. It was an excuse for you and I to get together and bullshit. When Steve was with us for most of the first huge portion of the show, It was an excuse for us to get together with him and bullshit. And it's what we're still doing. And we've stayed true to it, I think. And I love that. I just, the one thing that I'll always stand by in what we do is the honesty and, the purity of it. And I love that. So I'm really looking forward to getting to December and doing the whole, holy shit, man, it's 10 years. Like, check it out. So, yeah. So, just wanted to point
for that. Sure.
Yeah. Just wanted to point that out real quick. So, yeah, that'll be in December. Maybe we, you know what? I think I may have just come up with our idea. Maybe if we can do it on a different night, we could actually do like a fan hangout on the Nerf Herder Council like we do on Talking Into Infinity. And that's basically, we just tell people, hey, email us if you want to be on the show. And we just bring fans on and we bullshit about any nerd topic and just go.
Perfect.
So, but we have to do that. We have to do that on a Friday. So I think that would probably be maybe like December 12th, because I've got the Talking Into Infinity fan hangout on December 19th. So maybe Friday the 12th we'll bump from Wednesday to Friday. So in any case, yeah, just wanted to bring that up. So, all right, well, I guess we're out now. So the next show, thanks for tuning in. I'm busy looking at my calendar. I'm like doing a terrible job of multitasking here. Yeah. So
September 10th.
Yes, we will be right back here on all of these fine locations on Wednesday, September 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are doing a Star Wars topic, which we have not chosen yet, but we are going back to our roots. We want to keep it as Star Wars as possible whenever we can. So we are going to be discussing something Star Wars. Again, that will be Wednesday, September 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, guys, do not forget, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you have not already done so and you are watching on either our YouTube channel or that of the Virtual Cantina Network, please do not forget to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you would like to get some awesome Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And if you would like to get any manner of customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And guys, remember, if you guys have something that you want us to talk about, just shoot us an email at nerfherdercouncil@gmail.com and give us, your ideas, man, and we might use yours as a show topic. So until next time, I am your host, JT. I don't do all the socials, so whatever. He is AJ.
You're welcome to try to find me on X, but like I said, I can't actually log in. The app is so broken. But I am on Blue Sky at Drake Adams 579.
Yep. And guys, we will catch you next time.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.